You know, when scary things pop out at you, maybe it's time to get the heck out of there. Let's talk about why. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler-filled discussion of the new film Oddity, the newest film from director Damian McCarthy. Alright guys, just be aware, spoilers in the discussion. I am talking about this after the first showing that premiered in the US, so just be aware if you want to see this movie, that's why. Okay, so in a non-spoiler story synopsis, I guess you could say, Oddity is about a woman who is blind. She owns this like cabinet of curiosity shop, which is like really cool, kind of creepy objects and stuff like that. And because her sister has died, the husband of the sister visits her and gives her an item. And the process of everything, the blind sister goes to the place where her sister was killed by this mental patient. So basically, because of the fact that this blind woman might have the ability to see things, and on top of that, she has like this wooden doll that's like kind of horrifying, she starts to uncover the mystery of what exactly happened to her sister. And it's also kind of a like slow burn haunted house movie in a lot of respects, a slow burn ghost story. And it's basically what exactly happened to her sister, how is she going to solve the mystery, and like most movies like this, it has a twist that you may or may not see coming, that type of thing. So that's kind of the synopsis in a non-spoiler sense, but that's kind of where I'm going to leave it at. So Oddity is a film that has a pretty remarkable Rotten Tomato score, but a pretty remarkable reviewer score at this point. It's a movie that premiered at South by Southwest, won the audience award at the Midnighter section, and it's garnered a lot of praise for its kind of atmosphere and kind of storytelling aspects. Damian McCarthy did a movie, which I have not seen, called Caveat, which I heard is really, really good. But I don't really know much about this movie at all. I watched the trailer. I was, issued a screener, which I do appreciate, because IFC Midnight and Shudder have been putting out some really quality stuff. So I'm always open to seeing some really interesting horror films in a lot of respects. But I really didn't know much about what I was getting myself into. So that's where that lies. But getting into the spoiler-filled review of this movie, be aware that you may not like this movie because it is more atmosphere. Think like Woman in Black, the Daniel Radcliffe movie. I think that's what it was. These types of movies where it mainly focuses on the atmospheric idea of what this world represents. This movie takes place in this like really kind of square object building that feels really kind of old school English countryside. It has like interesting corners and interesting concepts and ideas, and in the process, you never know what lies behind the corner. And I like those types of films. I really do. Once again, it's like my kink. It's my cup of tea. It's my stuff I like, because I love the idea of just not knowing what's really there, but what is there could be horrifying, to be fairly honest, and that's what's creepy about houses. So therefore, I love this movie. I think this is one of the best horror films I've seen this year. I think it does struggle a little bit at the end with like the very end moment, which I'll talk about. But Carolyn Bracken, who plays not only the blind woman, but her sister, does an absolutely phenomenal job in this movie. We see at the very beginning, we see Danny has to struggle with the fact that she has this house. She's married to the character who's played by Gwilym Lee, I think, who plays Ted. In the process of everything, she's visited by this man who has this eye, who says she's in trouble. And as we learn later on, there's a reason why he says that. But the setup and how it's played out is so remarkably well done that when the actual kind of twists and turns start happening, the revelations start happening, that whole story, that whole like prequel setting takes on a really interesting new meaning, and I really appreciate that. It's one of those things where you can kind of see where it's going, but when you kind of set your mind to it on that very beginning, it's just a really, really well structured, very kind of, is this like a wolf movie, a werewolf movie? Is this, a guy who's going to murder her? There's never really a full explanation until you get to the very end. And that's set on the fact of like the characters in that scene. And as this movie plays out, as you start seeing the ghost, you start seeing the ghost of Danny, we have this crazy situation where, the Darcy character, who's blind, is visited by Tim's character. And in the process of everything, he's explaining, how he found this cloth, and she's like doing some spiritual stuff. And somehow in the mix, like she basically invites herself over to the house, which it doesn't really feel like she was ever invited. And it's really played very well. Carolyn Bracken does a really nice job of portraying this woman who is blind, and how though she's blind, she's able to kind of feel, and she's able to kind of predict, and kind of there is something that she's kind of seen that a lot of people can't see, and I really love that. And on top of that, she has this wooden doll in this like crate or whatever she has that is this like really horrifying looking creature, and it actually has a really, you know, it's in the poster, but it has like a really cool idea where it has, she's able to kind of see into the minds and see into this world, similar to somebody has like, you know, perception or whatever, perception ability. And like in this doll or this wooden creature or whatever, there's like these holes that have like the different pictures she has with her sister, and piece of hair and the tooth, and it's a really fascinating thing to see. And on top of everything, she has the eye of that guy who was played by Tadhg Murphy, or I think it's his plays Olin, and it just becomes a really fascinating kind of, you know, the others or premonition or something of that nature, where the person that Carolyn's playing, the Darcy character, could be seeing more than she's letting on, and it just doesn't really play out until the story kind of moves forward. But I love Yana's character in this movie too, because, you know, she's a woman who married Tim, or I'm sorry, Ted, who basically is a very manipulative individual. Like, he married this woman right after Danny died, right after she was brutally murdered. And that doesn't seem suspicious to anyone. It doesn't seem weird that he just kind of married her, like, not even that far long after she died. Well, as we start learning more and more, Olin, who is the guy who escaped from the mental institution, we start learning that he was innocent, that he was actually right. He even tells Donnie's character that she needs to run, she needs to get out of this house. And of course she's going to be suspicious when somebody she doesn't know. But I started to really enjoy kind of the revelations on the simple fact of, it's not like the most revelatory thing you'll ever see. It ends up being Ted hired the guy in the mental institution, the kind of warden or upkeep guy, the nurse or whatever, to basically murder his wife because he was falling in love with this other woman named Yana. And it's crazy, because the more and more you realize it, the more and more it's just kind of psychotic. And, you know, you see Yana kind of being thrust out of the house and kind of being put in a situation where Donnie's trying to warn her that she could be in mortal danger, and she actually eventually flees when she sees like Donnie, and of course the photograph with like the dead look to her eyes, and then the camera's taking, there's a really cool effect where the camera's flash keeps taking pictures, and we see Donnie, of course, in the flash, tells her you need to run, and that's when, of course, when Yana runs. And, you know, she's very suspicious of Darcy, but the more and more we realize, the more she's like safe. The fact that she ran away and she leaves a message. But that kind of stuff is just really cool, because it's a very old trope, the kind of jump scare, thriller, you know, horror elements. But it's done in the simple fact that it just, like, it adds those elements, but you're more focused on the wooden doll, and like, what is that wooden doll going to do? Is it ever going to move? And it just feels stagnant. It just feels still. And it's not until we get to near the very end of this movie where Darcy basically knows that Ted was the one to put out the hit on his wife to kill her. He basically convinces her to call the police, but in the process of everything, he's opened up the floorboard that allows them to like drop stuff down into the first floor. And I was expecting, you know, maybe Darcy kind of figured this was going to happen. She kind of predicted that he was going to kill her. But she waits for him to leave. He calls her, and she still falls down the chute or whatever to her death. But it's more kind of it's more dimensional to that than that, where this guy, the nurse, the orderly comes over after he's basically told by Ted to do that. And that's when, you know, we find out that Darcy has more to her, and she's able to resurrect this doll to become a creature that kind of confronts this orderly. And it's scary. Like, that creature is something straight out of like Creepshow or something like that, or Tales from the Crypt. His mouth is open, it's moving, it's like a non-stopping machine. And it leads to some of the really most interesting, I don't know if I entirely understand, moments where the orderly is attacked by this creature. Darcy, of course, dies, and it leads to the orderly being put into an insane asylum by Ted, because he knows Ted is like going to cover up his tracks. And that's all fine and all. And I figured, you know, Ted would bite it at the end. Maybe the creature comes back or something like that, or he falls into his death. But that doesn't happen. There's a moment where like a patient of some sort, whether it be from his own mind or maybe the creature or whatever, shows up at the orderly's bed and like eats his foot or something. I don't entirely know what they're going for. But there's a moment at the end of this movie which I found interesting where Tadhg goes home. Of course, Yana is not going to come back to him because she realizes like this is not a good place to be. She says don't call him, which is, you know, understandable. But I figured when he opens the box that he gets from the Oddity, the curiosity shop, and it's a bell, that it was going to lead into him being attacked by something, where he's going to fall out a window, where he's going to be killed, and that was just going to be the end of the movie. But that doesn't happen. It basically ends on like kind of like him being, you know, scared, suspicious. Once he rings the bell, it's one of those things where was he going to ring the bell? But when he rings the bell, he's constantly looking to his left and right, because I think he feels that something's going to attack him. But we see something approach him from behind, but we never see what it is until the very end shot. It's a dead bellhop, and I don't know if that's the intention of it, trying to say that these objects, these things that this curiosity shop has, holds some kind of value, some kind of a piece of ourselves, a thing, because I don't know. It's my kind of weird question of the movie is, what was Damian McCarthy trying to instill upon that bellhop being there? Because I mean, is the bellhop just gonna like go like, you know, follow him for the rest of his life? I mean, is he gonna constantly be looking over his shoulder, never realize that something's there? Is the bellhop gonna kill him? It's just I don't know. It's just really strange to me, really odd. And it leaves Ted in a weird position that, did he get away with it? Is he officially dead? I don't know the answer to that question, but I felt that it was really strong throughout most of it until we get to the very end. But it's still like a fantastically slow burn, kind of creepy horror / haunted house movie with a very interesting cabinet of curiosities angle. And it does some really interesting stuff with the woman. The fact that Darcy dies and is still able to get the order. I think the whole point of Darcy dying was to bring the orderly in to get him to be confronted by what he did. But I don't know. Some people probably won't like this ending just on that simple fact that it's not really clear on what exactly it's trying to do. And that's not necessarily take away from the movie itself. But once again, I think the atmosphere is so strong in this movie, and the acting is so strong, and the direction is so strong that I think it works just even without the ending. You could have ended it with the bell dinging and the guy looking back and forth, and you'd be like, oh, you know, something maybe approaches him at the end that you don't barely see. So you can leave it open-ended to like what exactly is going to happen, you know, similar to like, you know, Inception or something like that, where you can kind of make your own ideas. But when the bellhop's there, it's just like, maybe like a ghost is attached to all these objects. I don't know. It's just it's something that's going to put off a lot of people, and it's fairly honest. I get it. So there, you know, it is what it is. But to kind of conclude, once again, my honest thoughts, I just really enjoyed this film. It's really strong. It really works. It once again shows that IFC and Shudder are garnering this library of fantastic horror films, this fantastic, you know, suspense films. They're putting films out there that, you know, nobody will see unless they watch Shudder. You know, not many people are going to go see this movie. You know, it's been like that for a while now. You know, like When Evil Lurks, and, you know, last night, or Late Night with the Devil, and, you know, the Violence movie that just came out. It's a really fascinating collection of titles that makes me appreciate horror in a new light, because a lot of people do horror like that are more big budget, like Blumhouse, which I appreciate some of Blumhouse, but I just really like these really interesting takes, whether they work or not, or whether they're successful or not. And I think this is a truly successful film. It just has a weird little ending piece that I was not a big fan of. So overall, Oddity, highly recommended. If you like creative horror films, if you like unique horror films from other countries, I think this was filmed in like Ireland or England or something like that. Definitely give it a shot. I think you might enjoy it. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, that is going to be my spoiler take on Oddity, the newest film from Damian McCarthy. Check it out, especially if you liked his other film, Caveat. So there you go. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to my spoiler discussion. Comments below if you've seen this movie. What do you think? What do you think of Damian McCarthy's other film? Just let me know what you think about that bellhop, what you think was happening. If you want to add more to what I talked about in the spoiler discussion, please do. But other than that, thank you so much. If you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at top to find those coming next. And if you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.